Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. On this segment of Let's Chat Awareness with Mary May and Butterfly Love. And we are talking about this evening bouncing back from a loss, a job, a relationship, friends, and more, and not becoming lost. So, I want to give a second or two to I guess let me do some connection stuff here. I hope everyone's day went well. I know the weather is crazy. So what does it say? So when you think about self-care, one of my self-care things is I enjoy dancing. And more specifically, urban R&B, soul line dancing, some other genres as well, but definitely enjoy line dancing. And line dancing is not just, that simple stuff. So because I've been out of the mix for a while, I was reminded how I'm out of the mix. But it was good to see friends and family over the weekend, as I went to one of the events that one of the groups give. So I'm hoping that as we acknowledge and honor different things that mental health awareness brings, that we're also taking moments and time to honor self-care as well. And we talked about that on our very first conversation around recognizing the invoice and recognizing how it is that we take time from ourselves in various situations. So this evening, the topic was given to us by one of my followers and listeners. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to just kind of log on before I jump in. And thanks, Rafia, for sharing. You're always ready to support, so I appreciate you. So this is the deal. How do you bounce back from a loss? And I want to first clarify the term loss, because we put a lot of value in a variety of different things, and in the variety of things that we find important, we end up giving them like certain value markers in our lives. And with those value markers, we tend to not realize how much influence that we have, or how much influence we allow certain objects or things or people and places to have on our day-to-day functioning overall. Hey, love. So if you look at what is important to you, usually we value the work that we do. So usually work and career, and if we own a business, our business is important to us. If we have children, our children are generally important to us. Our significant other is important to us. But then we also value certain friendships, be it that they're new connections or they are connections that you maybe have lost time, and then you guys are getting, reacquainted within your new, how it is that you exist now may be different than how you existed before. You also have different seasons and different ventures that when you work really, really hard on something, you look forward to the gain. So then when it happens, you're not always prepared for the disappointment or the rejection, if you will. So that's what we're going to talk about, like bouncing back from that. And then when is it that you should engage and have a conversation around or seek out outside support, such as counseling, because sometimes we focus or had so much energy on a certain thing that we were seeking that when it is removed from our plate, it can cause a disruption. And tonight's show is not necessarily about suicide or anything like that. However, these are some of the situations that we talk about are definitely qualifying life events that could lead you to the thought process of what suicide can actually look like. But we want to talk about, how do you bounce back? How do you bounce back? How do you bounce back, and what are you bouncing back from? So let's go with something that's like really, really tangible, like a job. A lot of times, the job is our career. It is something that is sustaining us. It may not always be a career, because you may be doing something in the interim until you get to like your optimal thing, but it still has value as a placeholder. It has opportunity to shed light on or give you open doors for different things that you may be interested in doing, through finances, through experience, through connectivity to the person in which or people in which you are working with, to develop those relationships, which that's a different thing we're going to talk about, that cues you in on a variety of different things that you put a lot of energy in. You invest time. You look at how it is that you can manifest and grow from these different experiences and what that actually looks like overall. So, when you do that, you don't realize that the energy that you put into this is like you put all your eggs into one particular basket. And when you do that, you end up challenging yourself and limiting yourself. So you challenge yourself in the essence of, okay, this is my job. This is my financial well-being. This is how it is that I work and navigate on gaining the skills that I need. And this is how I'm setting my goals based off of the day-to-day experiences, the day-to-day financial welfare, the day-to-day choices, the day-to-day relationships that you have in this particular job. So in this particular job, you have opened up the gates and opened up your buckets for what the value is and how it influences you. So should someone come to you and say, well, we appreciate your contributions to our company for the last 5 years or the last 10 years or the last 11 years. However, we find it fit that our goals have changed and we are moving forward to do something different. And that means that we are separating from you. When a person hears that and they haven't operationally put a plan B in place, or if this was a placeholder, they haven't gotten everything like in regards to what their next steps are once they left the job, because they may have had a 6-year plan. They may have had, a plan that was just different than what has now been immediately presented to them. If they're planning to fail and allowing different things to rob their time, then they are planning for these opportunities to kind of bounce in and disrupt what it is that they have set up. So they had the job was paying their bills. It was also fueling their ability to gain insight and information or experience on maybe something else that job was connecting them to for their next step. And when there is a change or alter in the plan of the person providing the job and they come to present that to you, you usually need to bounce back, because you didn't prepare that every single day is a day that's not promised to you, but it's also every single day is a day of a new opportunity. But it should be a new opportunity that not only you are working in that career, but you are also working towards what your end game goal is. So however you balance that time, that you're not robbing yourself as well as robbing either entity, then you begin to create the thing that it wouldn't be an issue of you bouncing back. Now, relationships is where it gets tricky, because relationships is an exchange where we exchange between ourselves and whoever our significant other is. And in making that exchange, we tend to have a variety of different things that that get in the way. So we begin to qualify if the relationship is altering or changing. Well, I didn't really like that person anyway, or I did like them and I had a good time, but they did like certain quirks or whatever, but that really bothered me. Now, if there are things that people are starting to do that you don't agree with, then you should sit down and say, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation from what is happening with us right now. And the ability to have those type of conversations kind of goes with last session. We were talking about like cuffing and everything like that. You need to set up a tone or a place that when you say, let's chat, that the person does not immediately come defensive or immediately comes reactive, but that you have identified from the very beginning of your relationship what it is, on how it is you can kind of check in with each other when things are working out well, and when things just need a little adding to the spices of how it is that we communicate, how it is we regulate, how it is that we function in co-spaces together. So if that being the case, then when the relationship is having some uncomfortable moments, you guys will grow significantly and healthily through whatever turmoil, whatever matrix change, whatever challenge that's being presented before you. But if you don't have that foundation that you can have fun, hang out, and deal with those moments that's not too satisfying, then when it comes to the time that you need to separate, you begin to alter your matrix and alter your value system that you put into that relationship, and also begin to reflect on you and saying, okay, how can I separate from this? But then what is the rejection value? How much value are you putting on disappointment? Did you not recognize that the relationship only had a value for a certain season or time frame or chapter in your life? Because oftentimes we look at relationships from the not so much in the today moment, but we look at relationships from the projected. Okay, well, this relationship looks like it could bring me longevity, or it could bring me a marriage, or it could bring me children, or it could bring me, just different things that we end up putting into the energy space, as opposed to honoring the right now things. And when we go too far ahead, then we go too far ahead, and in going too far ahead without equal communication can cause one of the partners to just say, all right, I'm separating and moving forward. And when they do that, the person who wasn't ready, again, a situation that you're not ready for. And I can't necessarily say, like I said in the job, where you're doing equal time and always preparing for your next thing. I can't say that necessarily in a relationship, but in being authentic, you have to be ready to grow. So a separation, a breakup, and needing to bounce back is really a growing moment versus, oh, my life is all the way over. And the times that people think that it's all the way over is when they over invested in that person and lost sight of their own personal goals, because they were so invested in ensuring that they did everything right for that person that they didn't do everything right for themselves. And it's important to do things right for yourself, because you, at the end, optimally have to be satisfied from all domains that's important to you in a relationship. If you put so much energy into these external factors like relationships and jobs and not really being whole within yourself, then you end up putting yourself in a cycle and a pattern that's going to constantly repeat itself. And you're going to be looking at various factors and saying, okay, this pattern, eventually, if you do some self-reflection, if you decide, okay, well, let me kind of look at what is happening with me and what is happening with me in the space of relationships, or why do I get to a certain point in a job? And when it comes to job, you actually equally may be mutually bored or disinterested in a project, but you have to keep that in check and realize that if it's not mutually gratifying for you, that you are giving off that energy and other people see it. So they didn't just come to the decision of, okay, well, it's time for us to go in and meet with Mary and let Mary know that her time with us has been great, but we're moving in a different direction. Mary has to take responsibility and say, you know what, the way I started, I was at the utmost engine and like excited and enthusiastic and sharing all my ideas and putting projects together and putting them in motion and just doing the best thing that I could do. And then your little engine that could all of a sudden start losing gas, and the managers begin to look at that. And as they begin to look at that, they can take responsibility and say, okay, how do we re-engage Mary? Or they can say, Mary's productivity is not meeting our needs, so we need to move forward. So when you take that opportunity to say, okay, let me look at how it is that I need to bounce back or do something different, then you offer the opportunity in your personal reflection to not stay stuck. Now, I often use the example of being stuck at the red light. We are stuck at the red light and it's all this traffic going on when you fail to make a decision that's going to constantly have you in a progressive state. When you're still, if it's a relationship or even if it's a job and you like, okay, well, I could have did this, or maybe I should have did this. Or you make up these other conspiracy theories of, well, they didn't like me anyway because of the way I wore my hair. Or they didn't like me anyway because they were nitpicking on how I did PowerPoint presentations. Or they were nitpicking or saying that I was spending too much time with my family. Those nitpicking things and you sitting there dwelling in that is time that you are now robbing from yourself, creating a temporary level of depression. And I say temporary because it's circumstantial, it's situational, it is based on this situation that you are now starting to feel some depressive symptoms. But you don't have to stay stuck at the red light with these depressive symptoms. You can look at what is the journey on how it got you here. When you was driving down those streets, did you see detour signs? Did you see the construction area trying to say, okay, let's recreate this experience and to do something different? And did you ignore them? And if you ignored them, even to the capacity of what it was that you could do differently, or that you saw all of these red flag signs and you chose to continue to go forward in the traffic, the red light is going to stop you and say, okay, we're separating here. And the bounce back comes and saying, okay, I did see those detour signs. I did see when we were at the meeting and I was invited to come to the meeting at one point, and now I'm no longer invited to the table and to the conversation. Or I was able to, like, my ideas and stuff were fresh and they were being responsive. It's not because someone new and younger has come in. What is your light? How are you bouncing back and falling back so that your productivity is not that raining, shining light that is helping people acknowledge the value in you so that you don't have to have a bounce back moment. Now, when you have those bounce back moments, of course they hurt. Of course they're never timely. We don't plan for change in the essence of disappointment, because we're constantly, once we achieve one goal, we move forward to the next goal. And then moving forward to the next goal, we don't often settle in what those experiences are, but those experiences have value in how it is that we can grow by personal reflection, by personal insight, by even having, like, even if we're not thinking about therapy in the long term, you can have a therapeutic conversation with someone who works with workforce development and so forth like that. Not your girlfriends, not your family members, but someone who's going to have an objective identity to talk to you about what your blind spots are and what it is that you may be missing. And by doing that, you are purposely investing in yourself so that you can do better in your next experience and in your next relationship, because the two have similar yet different streets and detours. But in order for you to travel safely and to not have to bounce into a temporary state of depression, or the consideration and contemplation that some of these situations, when you dwell too long, you end up not having temporary depression, but more symptomology that would lead you to suicidality, or causing harm to yourself, or being sarcastically harmful to those around you who care about you the most. And what I mean by sarcastically harmful is that nobody wants to be around you because the words in which you choose are not healthy, or that you're degrading them because you're not well from the inside out. So you have to be mindful on what actions that you actually take in fueling. If someone says that you have depression, don't stay stuck at the red light because they said you have depression. Ask them, what is the roadmap that gets me for them to believe that? And then what are the interventions and strategies that we can work backwards out of depression and back to your optimal self so that you could be successful? So I see that there are people who are following and listening along. Thank you guys for joining this segment on Let's Chat Awareness, where we are talking about bouncing back from losses. My name is Mary May from Butterfly Love Consultations, and I do relationship management, where it's individual, couples, and family therapy. But I also do team building and relationship management along with educational consultant as well. So if there's any questions that raise to you that you would like to either inbox me or forward to me here in the thread, definitely appreciate that, because it'll keep the conversation going. Because I don't want to be in one area more than the others and you begin to, look at things differently. So we talked about job. We talked about relationships. And I had put on the title friendships. And people were probably like, well, friendships and relationships are the same thing. And I probably should have put business forming relationships or friendships as well. Just because what we take for granted is that how we operate in business and how we operate socially, they may look alike, but they're not necessarily the correct way or the way that someone receives us. And we never know how people receive us because we just keep on going with the flow and moving and grooving and trying to see what exactly is our next mode of practice. So what we do is we end up putting ourselves in situations and trying to establish ourselves as we get to know the person, but we don't do a lot of that get to knowing before just looking at the value that certain business people can bring to us. So granted, you connect yourself in situations, you go out to networking groups, you have conversations with people, and you end up learning what their skill set is, and it matches maybe something that you're working on and so forth like that. However, the key is to kind of look at, okay, yes, I am getting to know them, they are getting to know me. That even if it's in a business situation, you have to clarify what that business relationship, friendship is going to look like to eliminate any reasons that you would need to bounce back or that you may fall into a temporary depression that may impact that business friendship or that collaboration or how it is that you're getting to know each other, because people misread and misfire different things because they don't know you in that capacity. And in trying to get to know you in that capacity, you may end up sharing different things or saying stuff that they don't know is you joking, or you having fun, or you being clear and concise as far as what your expectations are. And they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to get to that, at another time. And them taking it for granted, you can be continuing to move forward in your business exchange and end up missing some of these cues. And again, you're back at the red light because you're at the red light trying to figure out how it is that you could do something differently. And you're not quite sure where the detours and the construction signs and everything came up that you continue to go into the construction site without any support. So, the key factors are when you dwell. Thank you for the love. When you dwell in the negative situation, when you dwell in the loss, when you dwell in the separation or the breakup in any particular way, you end up dwelling and causing yourself to almost become a toxic person. But you end up dwelling in a space that just ends up not being best for you because you are given influence, energy, and allowing yourself to be the most optimal time robber of yourself. You are robbing time that you could be growing and becoming a better person on how it is that you manage these difficult situations. Yet and still, you sitting back and like thinking about, okay, well, how am I going to make this next job career thing differently? Or am I going to separate from the job stuff and go into entrepreneurship? And then what is that going to look like as a business owner as I begin to navigate away from the W-2 life and navigate more so into, navigate more so into what entrepreneurial life, what is it that I need? What is my checks and balances? Oftentimes when we have these moments that we become lost and non-directed is that we don't pause. We're so busy in the motion of getting stuff done that is more so as far as productivity that we are hustling and hustling backwards. And what I mean by hustling backwards is we are moving forward, and in our mind and in our forethought, we think that we're moving forward, but there's several construction states that come up in your path that are telling you, hey, you need to not go this way, or something about this hasn't been clarified and you need to kind of clarify this. So in doing such, you would be benefited by taking pause, that if you are in a bounce back state, that you recognize that you're only lost on the detour, but you're not lost totally when it comes to managing how it is that you're making decisions and how it is that you're operating. Because a loss is not a loss, it's a lesson. It's a lesson on how it is that you operate, how it is that you've allowed yourself to operate in the space and presence of other people, and you reevaluating what works for you. And again, if in fact you feel that some of these conversations is unclear or you're not able to navigate independently, there are therapists like myself at Butterfly Love LLC or consultations where you could come and have a therapeutic conversation that is kind of like a check-in. So it's not like, oh my God, I gotta go see the therapist. No, you are checking in with you so that your bounce back doesn't keep you at bay to you not being productive in your best sight and in your best light. So in your productivity of having successful relationships that sustain goals, that go to whatever levels of commitments that you want, be it marriage, be it have children. Hey, Sister Sheena, thanks for joining this evening. Be it marriage, be whatever it is that is important to you in having a significant other in your life, you have to also be clear that you are your priority and being a significant other and a value to yourself. And having not necessarily a scripted outline, but an outline of an expectation of excellence to show how how you can bounce back. You're like, you know what, that relationship ended, but guess what? These are my takeaways. And I have a relationship that I bounced back from that a lot of people on the outside was like, okay, well, that relationship had these situations, or, they just had all of their comments as far as what they saw it on the outside. And for me, I was like, yeah, it might have had those elements, but the best thing out of that relationship is that I learned how to communicate with a significant other about challenging things that I beforehand would just isolate and deal with it on my own and not think about my energy that I was putting off or allowing it to interrupt the interaction that I was having with that person. So you gotta really think about it and do personal reflection, because what it is that you bring to the table, people are looking for. What it is that you bring to the table in your career and in the things that you're doing, people are looking for, and they're looking for it from the positive aspects of how does it contribute to them. They're looking at your social footprint. They're looking at all of those different things. So if you're bouncing back and you want to stay in the loss, negativity, dwelling, non-productive space, then you're choosing your destiny. But if you're saying, okay, you know what? Yep, let me brush it off. Let me clear my shoulders off. Yeah, that wasn't planned, but let me revamp the map. Or keep the map always developing, like a treatment plan, like a goal plan, like a path on your journey of the GPS. You don't want to be sitting at the red light. So because you don't want to sit at the red light, always have your evolving plan in place. And when I say always have the evolving plan in place, always be prepared for the unexpected. And that the unexpected doesn't alter your mood so much that you become lost. And that your path no longer has lights on it, that it no longer has focus, that it no longer has diligence. So thoughts, comments, questions that you may have about this, about what we've covered so far, because I've been talking to you and I'm kind of sharing, a variety of different things that's going on. And I know that some things are very, very familiar to people. But the work that it takes to exist in these particular spaces, oftentimes is where we become misguided. And a lot of times where that lost atmosphere happens. And, excuse me, what I want to say about that is, it depends on how much we allow those outside influences, which could be our significant other, it could be our children, it could be the values that are foundation of our family, it can be the values of the foundation of who we believed that we are or believe that we should follow. However, as you become into yourself as an adult and into creating your foundation, some of those things may look different. The way that you play a sport may look different. The way that you run your household as far as what expectations from how people enter your home, how they respect and honor your home may look different than the rituals that you had when you were growing up. And how do you do that mind shift and that change so that when you're engaging in this space, that you don't feel like you're engaging in it from a negative place, or a place where people are going to be judgmental. So what? They're judgmental. They don't live your journey. And everyone's journey and it is created by the universe. So if it comes that your journey, or that you need to be able to bounce back in some particular way, bounce back and come out stronger than you ever did, and that you ever could have imagined. And the thing that I would encourage you, so that you don't stay in that loss pattern, is Get you a crew, have a cabinet, have a toolkit of like-minded friends, because those moments where you want to dwell and where you want to be negative, you need them to be there, but you also need them to give you that push to say, all right, I hear you. I know that this is a difficult time, and yes, your plate is full, but let's look at the top 5 things, and then let's prioritize the next 3 things that you can deal with and manage within these next couple days or in these next couple weeks, and re-strategize your goal. You need that toolkit of friends in your corner. And if you don't have that toolkit of friends, that's when you can elicit consultations from people who work in workforce development, relationship management, so that you can constantly have a checks and balances for yourself, and for you to be the your best optimal self. So, I know I asked for questions. I asked for thoughts and comments. Thank you guys for sharing the love. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Reese, for joining the conversation. Thank you, Rafia, for joining and sharing. And my lovely sister, Sheena Shakur, thank you so much for your time and joining, because I know that each and every one of us are very, very busy. But I thank you for taking this mental wellness, let's chat awareness around how mental health creeps in to our day-to-day situations, and we don't even pay attention to this, because when we lose a job, and when we have a change in relationships, we have a change in perspective as far as what we thought our goals were, what it was that we were working on. When we change from one outfit to the next in the morning, and we oh my God, look at that extra bulge. Those are experiences of brief, temporary, but yes, it's an interruption in our thought process. So it's some mental health in there. And the reason we don't want to honor mental health the way that we should is because we've been told, remember we just talked about, sometimes how you do things in your household now may look different than the regimes and the routines that you had growing up. How you decide to deal with that now may look different than what your grandmother encouraged, or may look different than what your mother or your caregiver, whoever raised you, encouraged. It's not taboo. It's necessary. And with life stressors, as far as losing a job and relationships changing, you need to be able to be well prepared on how you cope, how you manage change and disappointment, and that you don't look at disappointment and rejection as a bad thing. You look at it as a lesson and a blessing from the universe, because that's what it is. It is a blessing and a lesson from the universe, such that you are able to be your optimal self. So, since there are no questions, I am going to, hey Michelle Snow, I see that you just joined in, and I actually was wrapping up, unless there's any questions that come through on the things that we've covered today. So you can always reach me at butterflylovellc.com is my website. You can like my page on Facebook, Butterfly Love Consultations. Thanks for the love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If there's any questions that you had, or you thought that this topic was going to yield, feel free to join send me an inbox, send me a message, text message, to let me know what that is, and I will be glad to answer that for you. If you feel that after reviewing this video that you might be in position to have that therapeutic consultation where you need to just chat with somebody to kind of get your roadmap on target, or to identify what some of those distractors are in your bounce back that you're dwelling on and it's becoming a barrier to you in certain ways, call me. Schedule time with me that we can have that honest, courageous conversation, but reflection on you, so that you cannot be distracted by the things that's not necessary. I just had a praise report, just speaking of bounce back for a second. I just had a praise report from one of my, I'll say consultees, where she had been at her job for 13, 14 years, and she hasn't been terminated, But she's feeling that fizzle and everything that I talked about earlier, that you feel like, okay, you don't have the Energizer Bunny to do all of the things. You just kind of going through the motions. And we talked, I gave her a strategy in regards to what she should do differently. She put that plan in motion, and now she's going to Arcadia for another certification so that she can now start her own business. And if that's not a praise report, and just having a one consultation conversation that kind of reorganized, rechanged her mindset and her ability to kind of look at the scope of the situation differently, then you can have that conversation too. Because it's nothing like just sitting down looking at what it is that you want to do. And let me tell you, she came to me and said, I kind of know what I want to do. I kind of know what ideas that I have, but I'm not sure how to really operate them or how to coexist, because I've been at my job, I think it was like 11 or 13 years. It was one of those numbers. And I don't know anything different, but I want to know something different because I have a son now. I have a difference in relationship. I have a different level of freedom and awareness as far as who I am as a person. So in her now having this new insight to who she is and what she wants to do, she's going to Arcadia. She already has 2 master's degrees, but she needed another certification that we did. She did the research. I told her what programs that offered the certain things that she was looking for. She did the research. She called the schools. She found out that what she needed to do wasn't that much to get this certification. That's going to open the door and set her platform for her to be her most optimal self. So I encourage you that if that's something that you feel that you could benefit from, please, 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 by all means, give us a call at 267-971-6203. And don't allow that mental health disruption, that thought process, that mindset to allow you to stay in that bounce back, sitting at the red light. If you're sitting at the red light, there's no way that you could be productive. And we need you to be productive because guess what? The world needs what you got. It needs what you got. It definitely does. So, thank you for joining the Let's Chat Awareness. Mental health is real. These are situations that, if left undone, could turn into something totally, totally not what you want to hear. And could definitely be a contributing factor to some of the suicidal behaviors, some of the unsafe behaviors. Again, the tongue is the worst weapon. It could lead into all of those things. But why do that when you have now been equipped with the conversation or me sharing with you different ways on refocusing the gems that have been planted into your heart? And I want you to be your most optimal self. So, chat with you all soon. And again, thanks for joining Let's Chat Awareness. I will see you guys on Thursday, be a little bit later, at 8 p.m. as we talk about toxic people and toxic relationships. And are you being toxic? Look forward to chatting with you. Take care. Butterfly Love Consultations is the Facebook page. You can reach me at 267-971-6203. Office is centrally located in Balakin Wood off of City Line Avenue, but I will come out to you to do a workshop and or counseling and professional development. Take care.